Hey, welcome back to the Owner Ops Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Gray, and in this episode, I'm hosting Brian from Diesel and Iron YouTube channel. If you follow any excavation channels on YouTube, you've probably come across Brian's Diesel and Iron channel. He creates a lot of educational how-to content in the excavation world. He also runs a service-based excavation business himself. So in this episode, we get into how he thought about growing the channel, whether growing a YouTube channel is a worthwhile endeavor, and we get his thoughts on actually growing an excavation business as well. Finally, at the end of the episode, if you stick around and listen to the whole thing, I'm doing a giveaway. We talked a lot about how to optimize your video setup in the field if you're doing work with heavy equipment and filming with things like iPhones and GoPros. So make sure to tune into the full episode and enter into the giveaway. And I will be sending one lucky winner a lot of camera equipment for filming YouTube videos in the field. With that, let's jump into the episode. Brian Furness from Diesel and Iron. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate the invitation. This is cool.
Yeah, I like to keep it raw and open. And we were just talking YouTube. So it's like, I came across your YouTube channel. Can you share right now? You have what? Is it 59,000 subscribers?
Right around there. It's one of those things where initially when you start up the channel, like every subscriber, you're like, yes. And you kind of reach a threshold where you're just like, I think I'm around 50. So yeah, I think we're between like 57 and 59 right now. I haven't checked recently. So yeah, we've got the Diesel and Iron YouTube channel. That is my primary channel that I personally run and own. And then I also create content for Fusible, which is a publishing company within the kind of equipment space. I host their show for them on YouTube called The Dirt, and it's found on the Equipment World channel.
Oh, fantastic. That's incredible. So how did you get into the content game?
So I've always kind of been drawn to content creation, like going back to when I was in high school, absolutely nerded out whenever we had these video projects and you got to get on and, use Windows Media Maker and you'd throw together a little goofy video. It was always a lot of fun to me. I'm not artistic at all. Like you give me a pen and paper or paint and it's like a child is doing a project. So I have the artistic love, but never been able to be artistic in other ways. And so video creation, photography, that's always been something that I can get into. And I feel like I can actually be creative and create something that's worth showing. Long story short, I have been in the industry for 15-ish years now. I'd have to go think about that. And I was working selling equipment and COVID happened, ended up getting cut from my equipment dealership job. And was kind of fumbling through what I wanted to do next. And I saw this need for, like we were talking about before the podcast, this need for content around our industry. There were a couple successful channels that I followed and I thought I can absolutely do that. And so that's when I started Diesel and Iron. And it started as just me going out and filming construction equipment because that's what I like to watch. I like watching stuff run. And I was talking to a young kid on the job site one day, and he was green to the industry, and I told him what I was doing, and he goes, man, if there was just something out there that could kind of guide people on what to expect. He said, I got into this industry, I didn't have any relatives or friends that were in the industry. I had no idea what to expect, no idea what skills I should get. Like any guidance would be helpful. And so that's where it kind of clicked. And my wife, I have to give her credit. She had also been kind of hounding me. She said, you're a really good teacher. You ought to do something in the vein of teaching. And so between the two of them, it kind of clicked. And I was like, I'm going to go create a channel that teaches guys and girls on how to get into the industry and, not only setting expectations, but kind of covering basic topics. What can you expect to make? What does a day in the life look like? What are some basic skills? And it's really morphed into what Diesel and Iron is now, which is my goal is if you really go through the content on my channel, you've at least got a decent foundation for getting into the industry, getting some decent skills under your belt, or at least kind of knowing what you should really focus on when you start getting into those machines. And from there, it's just kind of morphed into this beast that it's become.
Yeah, man. Well, it's been cool to watch your journey. And like I said, I came across your content because I follow, basically so I get up early, I do all my work before my wife and daughter wake up. I run this business here where we're actually offering, forestry, dirt, snow removal services here in Colorado. And then I come home, I hang out with my wife and daughter. And then at night, what I do for fun or to kind of wind down is I just watch YouTube videos. And that's what I do before I go to bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like doing that rather than watching TV. My wife just can't understand it, right? She likes watching her shows, but I'm like, I just want to learn something, right? I want to get better at my craft.
Yeah.
And so your videos popped up on mine or on my news feed, and I came across you because you had I think it was an excavator operator tips video. It's like how to operate an excavator. And I was trying to find that before this video, but I think you had almost like, I don't know, 750,000 views or 730,000 views on that, if I remember correctly. Where did you start in this game? Like, how did you think about creating your first pieces of content?
So honestly, I would love to say that there's some magical story behind that, but it has literally just been me fumbling my way through it. My first video that I made was actually driving away from that job site with that guy on it. And I went, you know what? I'm going to make a video on the way home. And so one of my first true diesel and iron style videos that I did was what to expect getting into the industry. And I was driving down the road, I threw my cell phone up and hit the record button, and as I'm driving, I just started chatting about, if I were getting into the industry today, what would I want to know? What would I kind of want to have the curtain pulled back so that I don't go into it and go, well, I really wish I would have known that, or I would have made decisions differently. That was kind of my goal. And from there, it just kind of morphed. I kind of started with the idea of, I'm a very linear thinker. And so I really started with this idea that, you know, you're going to watch my videos in succession, and I'm going to walk you through, you know, getting into the industry. And then I'm going to start teaching you basic skills. Then I'll start teaching you advanced skills. And so that's kind of the logic and the thinking behind how I started. Then it turned into, you know, really realizing how people ingest content on YouTube. And it's rapid fire, just whatever comes at you, people are going to watch. And so it's morphed now into, as I think about topics, I kind of make a mental note, hey, I need to go cover that one at some point. And so I try to do it on the job in real time, just because that's going to be the most practical application and it's going to be the most realistic application. But then there's other topics where it's probably going to be 3 years before I'm in a loader again in a regular deal. So I'll go find someone with a loader and I'll go simulate this thing so I can show you what I'm doing and how I'm utilizing the machine. And so it's really what it's become now. Recently, we've come into possession of a GPS system. And so I'm starting to put out more content around GPS because, as you know, more and more of this industry, you're getting exposed to the GPS. And if you have no experience, that's a really deep pool to step off into. And so if I can at least get some basic fundamentals down for people, it doesn't matter whether you're using Trimble or TopCon or Unit Control or anybody else. If you understand the fundamentals, you can go apply those to that system. You're just learning a different user interface. So really, that's been my goal, is just trying to give people some kind of high level knowledge that we can gradually over time drill down deeper. And as your skill set increases, I want to have videos that cover the advanced stuff without leaving behind the guys that need the basics.
I love it. I love it. So if you were telling a guy, let's say a guy has a dirt work company, and he wants to create videos for YouTube, specifically for the YouTube algorithm, like, what are 3 things that you tell that person to think about?
Ooh. So first of all, I'm going to tell you, don't start an educational YouTube channel, because it's funny. You start to get to know other YouTubers in this space. It's a relatively small community. You naturally bump against each other and start to shake hands. And looking at their numbers of earnings and my numbers of earnings, doing an educational style channel is not the way to go. So what really drives YouTube algorithms is view time. Specifically duration of the view. And so it's funny, Mike Simon, Dirt Perfect, if you're familiar with him, he and I were chatting, and he will intentionally do things in his video that he knows are wrong and he knows people are going to critique. And he does it because he says those are the money generators. And so, because everyone on YouTube, as you know, anyone with a YouTube channel knows, people have to share their opinion. They cannot not let you know that you did something wrong. And so he'll intentionally act like he's cross-threading a bolt, and he'll leave it there for the video, and afterwards he'll go back and fix it. because he knows there's going to be about 50 people in the comments that are going to tell him he cross-threaded that bolt, and if he was on their job, he'd be fired, blah, 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 blah. So if you can do things that really get audience interaction and keep their attention, even if it's hate. So I love it that you brought up my excavator tips and tricks video. The reason that video performed so well is only partially because of the actual content in that video. The real reason that video performs so well is because that was a machine that I had been in for about 15 minutes. It was a buddy. I've got a buddy that's a farmer, and I was running that 330. I had been in it for about 15 minutes, and he's got one of those old style cat couplers on it that takes a ton of throw out of the bucket cylinder. And so it always happens when you get in a machine like that, it takes you a little while, especially if you're only half paying attention because you're making a video. It takes you a little while to figure out where you need to let off of that bucket stick before it clangs out. And so multiple times in that video, I open the bucket up and kabam, the bucket clangs. I have gotten more comments about how I have no business teaching people how to run an excavator because I can't run it. I get called a bucket banger. Like, I bet half of the comments in that channel are talking about how poor I ran that excavator, yet I decided to teach. That's what drives views. That's what drives the algorithm, is that engagement from the audience. And so the biggest piece of advice I give anyone is, just like our industry, you better come into YouTube with a thick skin, because a lot of times it's those hate comments that are really going to drive the performance of the video, because the algorithm goes, well, if all these people are commenting and engaging and they keep watching because they all want to see him clang the bucket again, this must be a really good video. And that's what really pushes it.
Do you operate heavy equipment and want to grow your business online? Check out Bear Claw Media. Now, for those of you who have been listening, this was formerly Land Service Marketers. We just decided to brand it all under the Bear Claw brand since we've already been building all the social media accounts. So what is Bear Claw Media? We offer digital marketing services for other contractors throughout the U.S. in the heavy equipment industry. So think land clearing, excavation, snow removal, septic install. If you're doing any of those operating heavy equipment and you have a high ticket order value, Bear Claw Media could be right for you. If you want somebody to handle all your social media management, and if you want somebody to bring you more leads to help you grow your business, then Bear Claw Media is the exact service that we've used to grow Bear Claw Land Services. We'll implement the exact same strategy into your business. You'll get a dedicated account manager. All you have to do is upload photos and video from the field of your equipment into a shared iCloud album. Visit gobearclawmedia.com and we can handle it from there.
So when you started this, was your business model specifically revenue generated from YouTube ads, or however they do it for paying out creators?
Yeah, so that was the big dream, right? So I had this magical aligning of the stars that allowed me to create my channel. So because I got let go during COVID, and because of COVID, if you remember, there was a lot of money out there for people who were unemployed because of COVID. And so my wife and I was in equipment sales beforehand. And so, you know, anyone that's been in sales knows that that's a very cyclical business, and you better stock some money away because there's going to be some lean times and there's going to be some times of fat and plenty. And so we had a nice little nest egg stored away anyway. Plus we had all of this COVID money coming in. And so I really went at this hardcore with the idea that I'm going to have YouTube pay my bills. I'm going to become this rich and famous YouTuber. It's going to be incredible. And that's where we get back into don't start an educational channel, because what happens with my videos is people come on, they skip through the video to figure out whatever little nugget of wisdom they're looking for, and then they click off of the video. So my performance is pitiful on my videos. I want to say my average view time is like under 4 minutes, because people come and find the nugget. So what I very quickly found out is YouTube is not going to pay the bills. So that's where I had sold a skid steer and a bunch of attachments to a guy that we became really good friends. He is now my business partner, Rick. And so about the time I started up this channel, I called Rick up and said, hey, I need some supplemental income. Do you want a freelance operator, someone that you can get off the books when you don't need them, but when you need them, it's going to be beneficial to both of us? And he was all about it. So I started working with him, and that's where we used to create our content. And it actually morphed into, we found out really quickly that we work extremely well together. Everyone's been on one of those job sites where you just click with somebody. You don't have to communicate verbally. You can just, by even looking at what the other one was doing on the job, we just knew how to fall in line and help each other. And so we became a powerhouse between the two of us, that we could knock out some really big jobs with just 2 people and a couple pieces of equipment. So it morphed into more of the income coming from the jobs we were doing. And as a result, my YouTube channel has become more about a thing of passion. I love this industry and I want to give back to this industry. And so really the main driver, if you really distill it down to what it is become now, my main motivation for the YouTube channel is purely to give back to the industry and to encourage more people to get into it. Because to be totally honest with you, my YouTube channel does not pay the bills. I'm under $1,000 a month in revenue off of the YouTube channel with 50,000 subscribers. So it's definitely not paying the bills, but it's really rewarding and fulfilling when you get those comments that roll in regularly of, oh, this has been so helpful. I've been struggling with this for so long. Or, the ones that really hit home are, I had one comment in particular that my teachers, my guidance counselor, my parents are all telling me that I have to go to college to be successful. Thank you so much for putting this out there. I've chosen to go into the trades regardless of all of those people telling me I was going to fail. That's where it's like, that's what pays my bills internally for me. So,
yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm so thankful that you're open and transparent with this, Brian, because I believe that there is massive opportunity in the trades. This is sort of like why I started my podcast and why I started being like open on the internet with, hey, here's how we're growing our business and you can do this too. If you just follow like these kind of like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that you could do as kind of like a savvy Gen Z or millennial person who knows how to operate a phone, take videos, use a Google My Business, set up a website, like things like that like our baby boomer competitors are not doing and they did not do with their business.
Yes.
So like, that's where I saw opportunity. I'm really thankful that you brought up the whole YouTube thing, because I see so many Gen Z people out there like, yeah, I just want to get in the content game and I want to be a YouTuber. Right. And it's like, well, man, I've talked to people who have, I'm not going to name any names, but I've talked to people in like the forestry mulching industry, guys who have big channels. And he's like, dude, my best month was like $8,000 a month. And it's like, you can make that in a day on a dirt work or a forestry job, on some of these projects. So like, why not just go build the business? And so, for any of you listeners who are listening to this, I want you to take that to heart. Like, you're hearing it straight from Brian. He's got almost 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I'm not saying that like some guys don't hit it big, right? But the reality is,
there's big money out there, but don't think for a second that that's the norm and that you're going to go get that.
And it kind of comes back to that whole like tech crunch mentality where it's like, dude, everybody was talking about how to go start an e-commerce business or a, drop shipping business, things like that. And it's like, that was the sexy stuff online. Whereas now, I think like my whole mission with this podcast is I want to showcase people that like, you don't have to go do that stuff. You can do something in the unsexy services or trades, and operating equipment is pretty freaking fun too. And if you can make money doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I will say too, as much as I like to play the super humble, I only do this for the likes and shares. It's a business like anything else, right? And so when it became clear that YouTube itself wasn't going to pay the bills, other opportunities present themselves. And if you're even the least little bit business savvy, you can go and leverage what you have over here on YouTube to create other opportunities for yourselves. And for instance, like we were talking about before the podcast, through the YouTube channel and kind of getting myself out there and my personality out there, that's how I landed the gig with Fusible hosting the Dirt Forum. They needed someone to host the show. They said, hey, you're really well spoken, you're really knowledgeable in the industry, would you want to do this? And that's a paying gig that I was able to get specifically because of the YouTube content that I was putting out there. I've gotten involved with multiple industry contacts that either have me creating content for them. So I've got a little production company off to the side that is an absolute spinoff of everything that I've learned on the YouTube space. So I'm getting paid for content production. I have a relationship with Chevron where they pay me to go and be a personality for them as Brian, the authority from Diesel and Iron. I mean, there are other ways that you can utilize and leverage the YouTube channel to where you can make really good money, but it is a common misconception that everyone's going to be a YouTube star and YouTube just throws off this incredible revenue that there are very few people that make that kind of money, and it does not come easy. It is a very long trudging process unless you just magically hit the algorithm just right and you're one of these channels that blows up in the course of 4 months.
So what I want to focus on, Brian, is like, what have you learned in building this YouTube channel that could help our listeners? And if you repost this on your channel, totally cool. You can use any of this content, but our listeners as well. A lot of our listeners are 25 to 44-year-old males who either have started a business in services or trades, or they are looking to start a business. So my whole deal is like, I come from a marketing background. I want to figure out how to market my business best. And our listeners, I think, could benefit like just from learning some maybe tips, tricks. Like, what have you learned about the YouTube algorithm that if somebody wanted to go market, if I wanted to go market Bear Claw Land Services on YouTube, what are just like several things that I should be thinking about as I create those videos?
So, there's a handful of things that I've learned. First of all, as we talked about, we're kind of coming up against a bunch of the baby boomer generation that they have no idea how this stuff works. And their idea of doing any sort of social media marketing is to take out the cell phone, take that really grainy picture from 8 feet up in the air because they're holding their phone up, and it's just the most bland, drab looking shot or quick video that's shaking all over the place. And that does nothing for anybody. I mean, it really doesn't. And it makes them feel good because they're on social media, but it doesn't really do anything. And so what I would say is the biggest thing you can do is think about how you want to present yourself online, because your customers will go find this stuff and they are immediately, this is their first impression of you. You know, they may have spoken to you on the phone, but if they turn around and find you in a video that's like dogging on the competition or doing some shady stuff on someone else's job site, I mean, this is the impression you're putting out there for your customers. And so what I would highly encourage guys to do is you don't need any fancy camera equipment. That was one thing that I would say in hindsight was a mistake, is I went and invested in a fair amount of really nice camera equipment. At the end of the day, people in our industry or customers don't really care that you've got a $5,000 camera set up and you've got a $1,000 gimbal that you're carrying around and this really nice drone that you're flying. No one cares. As long as you've got decently framed shots, you spend a little bit of time doing a little, not crazy, but doing a little bit of color grading just to kind of spruce it up a little bit, give it some life. That's going to give you the visual appeal you need. The next biggest thing I can tell you is take the time to have decent audio. There's nothing more distracting in a video than having a crazy amount of wind noise, or the voice is fading in and yes, exactly. Or you've got the voice fading in and out because as you're rotating your camera around, the microphone's all over the place. You can go and get a decent lav mic, and for those not familiar, that's the one that clips onto your shirt and sits right there. You can get those under $200 that are really good quality. Take the time to actually get good audio in your videos, because now you have a video that's not distracting and it's not going to be rubbing your face on sandpaper to watch. It's enjoyable. And then from there, I would absolutely let your personality come out. I mean, that's really what video production lets you do, is it takes you from being Bear Claw Excavating or Bear Claw Industries, and it turns you into a person. You know, I'm not anything outdoors excavating. I'm Brian. And when I show up on a job, my customers know me as Brian, not the representative of anything outdoors. And that's going to do multiple things for you. First of all, it's going to help you land more work, because people want to work with people. They don't want to work with a company or a corporation. They want to work with a person. It establishes trust before you even show up on the job site, because they already know who you are. You've put yourself out there and you're showing everyone. It is funny, still to this day, when I meet someone that has watched the channel, they're like, well, you're just like you are on your channel. Yeah, like we're content creators. Like, we don't put on a face when we do our videos. All we're doing is hit and record on a camera that's recording us being us. And so that's really it's gonna have the same impact on your customers. You're just like you are in the videos, yes. And if you're a quality stand-up individual in your videos, that's gonna establish that trust with your customer before you even set foot on the job. And then the third thing it does is it really allows you to showcase truly what you do and the quality of your craftsmanship. Because if you're putting out that content, your customers are naturally going to start watching it. I can't tell you the number of times I've had people that are totally outside of our industry that watch a video and comment, "This is fascinating. I never knew what went into this." And so if you're putting out really quality work and you're showcasing that work on your channel, your customers are naturally going to see that and go, "I don't care if that guy's a little bit more expensive, because I know the stuff that's under the ground that I can't see is going to be put in the right way so that I don't have to come back and repay to have it done 5 years down the road. This guy does solid work all the way around. If he's $1,500 higher than the next contractor, it doesn't matter. I'm going with him."
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that.
Striker Digital specializes in SEO services specifically for local service businesses. Bodie and Andy, the two co-founders, have helped me get Bear Claw Land Services to the #1 search result on Google inside my state for my specific search term. If you want to learn more, visit strikerdigital.com. That's STRYKER-digital.com.
That's something I've been thinking about too as we build Bear Claw Land Services channel. It's like, yes, you have to think about the fact that your customers are going to see this, and you have to plan for that, right? The customers you're actually doing business with. So something I've been thinking about is like, we're committed to delivering 5-star service. I want to hire and build the team of quality stand-up people. Like, it's my job too to go showcase our team and like the dedication that they have to becoming the best at their craft. And so that's been really fun to get the team involved as well. Do you have any sort of like script or framework that you follow whenever you create a video?
No, we go out there. So and this is where you kind of have to separate, now that we've started doing more vlog content again, you kind of have to separate my channel into the vlog side and the educational side. On the educational side, no, there's not really a plan outside of, if I've picked a topic, like I did one the other day where I was talking about points and lines and surfaces and GPS. And so I went out and bought some styrofoam balls and some skewers and tissue paper so that I could build a little model of what our job site would be. And then I overlaid the tissue paper to represent our surface to kind of show you how those interact. That's about the extent of planning that I do in a video. But I've gotten to where I hit record on the camera here and just roll with it. And sometimes I may get into a little spot where I'm not sure where to go next. And the beauty of editing is you kind of learn as a content creator, you don't have to push record and stop and get all flustered and everything. I'll literally give myself a 2-second silence and then pick right back up where I wanted to leave off and roll like it never happened, because you can do a quick cut there, cut that out, and then you've got, whatever content you want to be presented, it's already there. So that's how I do my educational videos, is I generally just throw the camera on and start rolling. And then if I think of something after the fact, again, hit record again, throw in my little snippet, knowing that I can go back and I can cut that into my video later. When it comes to the vlog, typically what we try to do, when it comes to vlog content, people really want to see your personalities and interactions. And so I try to record a lot of times. There's two things I try to capture. One is kind of the overall scope of what we're doing. I'm kind of a nerd, and I find myself recording too much of the work that's taking place. And I know that the majority of people out there don't necessarily want to see me running a skid steer for 15 minutes to smooth out this one area of the yard. They just want to know that's what I'm doing and see me run the skid steer for a minute. And so I try to capture the kind of overall scope of work, but then really what I try to capture is when Rick and Ethan are on the job site, the banter back and forth, because that's where the trades are fun. I mean, in all honesty, running equipment's cool, but running equipment solo on a job all day long gets really old really quick. What's fun is the fact that you're out there giving each other all the time. You're constantly ragging on each other. If someone makes a mistake, you absolutely call them out on it and give them a hard time about it. That's how we show love in this industry. And so to kind of showcase that, it lets your audience really get to know you and your crew and your dynamic. And now they're emotionally invested. Now they're going to watch, because it's really cool to see what you guys are up to, and it's hilarious to watch you interact. Now they want to come back because they're emotionally invested in what you guys are doing.
Dude, that is the best part about being in the trades, is it's just so similar to sports, and it's so similar to a locker room. It's like your goal on every project as a team is to be the absolute best that you can be. And if somebody's dropping the ball
Absolutely.
and you call them out, like nobody takes it personal. Like, yeah, your ego may get hurt a little bit, but like if you do that to somebody else on the job site, you're basically opening up the door for them to do the same thing back to you. And it's like,
100%.
Nobody is above the board, right? It's like, if you're on the job site, you better be sharp and you better be tuned in and you better be delivering your best. And if not, like what I'm trying to build our culture to do, and I think we're really close to doing that, is like, do people call each other out if you're not doing your job? And that's what I love about this industry. It's like nobody gets butthurt about that. And we all want to be the best at what we're doing because we want to deliver a great product for the customer. And that's what I love about the trades.
And I do want to take that a step further though, because one element that I do think the industry overall needs to improve on is kind of taking that one step further. I agree. You call them out if you're not doing quality work at the level that we're expected to be at, which is good professional quality work. Absolutely call them out on that. But the flip side is, I love your team analogy because it is a team. And if someone misses something or didn't quite get it right, it's not just call them out to be a dick about it. It's call them out and then have their back. You know, you're not calling them out because you want to just get at them and you want to whip them back in the line. It's, I'm calling you out and I'm giving you a hard time, but then I'm going to get down there in the trench and I'm going to help you do it the right way. And I think that's where there is a good portion of the industry that doesn't take it that last step. It's just being the dick and calling them out because they see an opportunity to call somebody out. You forget the team element of it.
Agreed. And yeah, I think to even taking it along those lines, like the step further, is like one thing I talk about with my guys, and even our lead guy Josh is like, dude, if you see me out of line, call me out, because we're not going to set the bad example. Like, I'm not above the board here. And I think like holding that level of excellence with other people and being able to put your ego aside and be like, look, if I'm doing it wrong, if you see me doing something wrong, call me out. But I'm also going to do the same to you because I want you to be the best, because I want us as a team to be known as the best, right? And ultimately, if we can do that, then we can deliver a great product to the customer. So, let's go back to content though. Like, how do you, and maybe we could just like creatively brainstorm this, because I'm thinking about how to improve our vlogs as well. Like camera, mic setup, how do you capture that in real time? Because people want to see real. They don't want to see like produced stuff, right?
So I used to lug around a Sony a7 III with a really nice lens, and I had this big old vlog stick that I'd have to hold way out there because of the lens that was on it. But boy, those shots were just beautiful with the bokeh, the background and everything. And it was like, it became such a chore to create content because you're creating these huge files, then you got to come home, you got to offload all your footage. I'm using a really high-end lav mic, so that's separate audio that I got to bring in, and then you got to match them up. And because those high-end cameras don't come out with all of the nice footage, you know, you've got to color grade and you've actually got to spend time making the footage look nice. Now, the colors are phenomenal and rich when you're done, but it takes a lot of time. And that's how I started this thing back in the day. What I found is people don't care about the camera quality and how beautifully blurred your background is. What they care about is what you're doing and what's going on in your day. And so really, and to capture it in real time, we walk around with a couple GoPros, and I've got some of those Rode lav mics. And the beauty of those is they can record independent, so we can do just regular independent audio that I can match up and post. Or you can actually tie it straight into your phone. And so what Rick likes to do is he'll plug it right into the bottom of his phone while he's wearing his lav mic. It's got the little receiver that'll plug in. And he'll just walk around recording on his phone, and his high quality audio is going straight into the phone. The beauty of that is it allows you to whip out the camera really quick when there's something you want to capture, and you don't have to worry about, put the job on pause for the next 5 minutes while I go get all of my fancy camera stuff out and capture this moment. It's no, in real time, we'll just pull out the camera. The GoPro's the same way. If you want to kind of take a step up from the cell phone, I'll pull the GoPro out, and again, that lav mic will plug into the GoPro. And now you got the crispy, nice audio going into the GoPro, but it took you all of 10 seconds to pull it out, fire up, and hit the record button on your lav mic and the GoPro, and there you go. So it's really easy to whip that out. And then it's one of those things where we'll record a whole section of content. I may record for 15 minutes at a time. And then in post, you kind of go through it and go, okay, realistically, what is the audience going to care about here? Well, I talked for the first 30 seconds to a minute. Then it's me running the machine for 5 minutes. And then I talk for a minute and a half. And then I run the machine for another 10 minutes. And then Rick and I have a conversation. I'll edit that down to where you get me talking. You'll see 30 to 45 seconds of me running the machine so that you can kind of get the idea, again, like we talked about, the big picture of what I'm doing. And then I'm going to go to that next segment of me talking so that there's meat, there's something that's entertaining to watch instead of just a machine pushing dirt around. And then I'm absolutely going to leave in that conversation Rick and I have because, two things. One, the banter, that's what's fun and enjoyable to watch. And two, a lot of times in those conversations, the audience is in real time discovering what our strategy and plan is for tackling the next set, or why Rick is leaving the job because he's got to go tackle this. And so it kind of gives the audience that bigger picture view of what running a business is like and some of the hurdles that you come across, because there's other times where we've had conversations where, hey, the customer just came out, they're really upset about this. We need to see if we can address this. How are we going to do this where it's not going to cost us a ton of money, but we can also appease the customer? Because as business owners, we're running into those situations all the time where, hey, the customer really wants this done and it's outside of our scope of work. Can we find a middle ground without putting ourselves out a bunch of money? And so those are the sort of things you really want to leave in, because that's what gives people a really good idea of what it's like running a dirt company. And that's when they start to get invested, because as much as it's not their dirt company, if they're there for the meetings and they're there for all of the discussions, well, they're a part of it. They feel like they've got a piece in it, and they're invested to come see how it shakes out.
One thing you mentioned there was connecting the lav mic to the GoPro. I've got my GoPros here, and could you just, for our audience, just teach me in real time how to connect the lav mic? I'll pull it out of my backpack too. Are we opening this up and connecting?
Yeah, so you got a little side door. And I will say this, the new GoPro, I think I've got the GoPro 11 now. It took me forever to upgrade. I was on the GoPro 7 for a long time, which it looks like you've got, a 7 or 8?
I got the 11. Got the 11.
I can't see it is the 11.
And I have the 12.
Okay,
12
perfect.
black.
So they've got a new, they call it the Media Mod. And essentially it's a shell that goes around the GoPro. And what the beauty of that one is, it puts a front and rear mic on the camera. So you don't have the issue of spinning the camera around and having your audio phase in and out. So first of all, for the audience, if you don't want to necessarily invest in a separate microphone, I highly recommend getting the Media Mod and plugging that in, and then go into your GoPro settings. And there is a way to turn on the front and rear mic at the same time. And that way, the other thing is, if I'm recording a conversation with me and Rick, obviously the camera is either going to be facing him or facing me. It will capture both sides of the conversation. So you can do that sort of a shot without necessarily having to go and invest in a lav mic. So Media Mod, highly recommended. If you don't do the Media Mod, what you're going to do is you're going to take that lav mic, and I'm assuming you're going to do something like the Rode lav mic where you've got a separate receiver. So it generally comes with 2 little transmitters. They're these little square deals that you're going to peg to your shirt. And you've got 2 options there. If you just hit the record button on your little lav mic itself, it's going to record internally to that lav mic, and you're going to have a separate sound file that you'll have to match up to your video in post-production. If you just power the unit on, it's going to transmit to the receiver unit. And Rode's done a really good job where they have a little adapter where you can adapt it out to USB-C. You can do a lightning adapter, and I think they've got like a micro USB. I can't remember what the other one is. So you essentially put whatever adapter you need to mount to your device. So for the GoPro, going back to your example here, you're going to put on that little USB-C adapter. So you're going to take that little side door off, and then you have the ability to plug this USB-C adapter right in. And now the GoPro will read the audio incoming through that port, and it will use that as the audio for the video instead of using its own built-in microphones.
And can you spell that brand out for me?
Yeah, so Rode, I believe, this is bad. I think it's RODE. And they are a little spendy. I want to say it was like, in fact, I will tell you right quick. Let's look it up in real time.
because I just bought a couple. So I'm going to test them out this afternoon. We're going to do some road grader footage and create a video.
Oh, there you go.
Related to, we've got like a 1992 Cat road grader. We use it for snow plowing and then gravel road grading in the summer. And Josh, field crew manager and lead operator, is going to kind of go through some of those controls for the old school way to run a grader with all the levers.
This episode is brought to you by Dialed In Bookkeeping. Ben and his team provide bookkeeping services, job costing reports, and accurate financial information for the home services industry. If you're looking to keep your books up to date, visit dialedinbookkeeping.com/OWNROPS. When you use this specific landing page, you'll get your first 3 months 50% off.
So this is where I have a problem. I'm a tech junkie, and so I always have to have the best and greatest right off the bat. You can absolutely get away with a wired, so the lav mic, if you really kind of get into the technical definition, a lav mic is one of those mics that's going to pin to your shirt. And the true microphone, most of the time, is an independent standalone microphone. So you can get on Amazon and you can order cheapies that will, it's literally a wired microphone that will plug into your GoPro or to your phone. And that's a really cheap option to highly upgrade your audio. And just to get into specifics there, what it's doing is all of that extra noise, whether it's the wind, the sound of the machines, all of that stuff, these lav mics are really directional. So they're only going to pick up the sound that's really close to them, and it's going to kind of quiet everything else down. And that's why it's such an upgrade. We've all seen the video where you're trying to talk over a skid steer that's running full bore, and you cannot hear the guy that's talking in the video. This lav mic will absolutely help with that issue, and it will give you a lot more vocal clarity. Now, when you step up to one of these wireless lav mics, that's where these companies have gotten really smart with the YouTube game, and they've kind of made this self-contained little unit where it's the microphone, it's got an internal hard drive to store those files, or it's got the transmitter package so that you can send it to the receiver. So you don't have to go for the high dollar one. You can absolutely get away with a significantly cheaper one. But I will say there's a ton of benefits for kind of splurging on the road, because it comes with 2 transmitters. So now, like you were saying, if you're going to go out there and talk to the grader guy, the beauty is I can have one GoPro and we can plug our receiver in. And now you and I can both wear the lav mics. I can get in the grader. You can be standing on the side of the road. And we can both be communicating, and even though you're not anywhere close to the camera, it's picking up both of our audio channels. So there's a lot of times where Rick and I will be doing something in 2 separate machines, or he'll be my laborer outside of the machine. If we throw on those microphones, I can capture that conversation in a way that I wouldn't be able to do with just the built-in microphone or a single lav mic. So that's kind of the advantage of going to the road, is you get a lot more functionality and capability out of it that you wouldn't get out of the cheaper option.
Can you, let's see, do we have a chat in here?
Yes, there is a chat.
Yeah, I'm using this new software called Squadcast, which, by the way, some of you have been asking about software media. I had one of my friends, he's starting a podcast in the new year, and he's like, hey man, what's your video setup? I'm like, dude, just get this like stream cam. Here's the software. Anyways, we use squadcast.fm, and I just started using that probably 5 or 10 episodes ago. So that's why I'm asking if I have chat in my own software.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I've been telling you guys wrong this whole time. So I started with Rode mics. We switched over to DJI. So DJI has the DJI Mic 2. And it's this really cool compact deal, and it comes with the transmitter and 2 receivers. And that's what, and by the way, that's got a little self-contained pack, has a built-in battery charger in it. So it kind of works like your wireless earbuds do, where as soon as you clip these back into their little slots, it charges them back up. And you can easily get probably 2 to 3 days worth of recording out of this whole setup before you got to plug the actual container into a USB port to charge it back up.
No way. I
highly recommend that DJI mic. It has been so convenient, and because of the versatility, you think about it, so I've got one of these for Rick and I've got one of these for myself. So between the 2 of us, we have 4 microphones we can throw out there. And then I can pull all of that audio into my video, throw them together, and now you've got 4 completely independent mic'd up individuals on the job site.
That is awesome. And the fact that you can get 2 or 3 days of charge out of those is incredible. That's like my arch nemesis.
Yeah, if you
charging, keeping all this equipment charged.
Yes.
Like, holy crap, man. There's nothing worse than getting to the job site and you're like, the drone's dead.
Yes, exactly. And so that's the beauty, is if you don't plug them into their little ports in the container, you can get just about a full day just out of the units themselves. But because you can plug them back in their little slots in the little keeper, 2 to 3 days easily before I got to go and charge the actual holder. So it's a really convenient setup. If you do podcasts, if you want to do a remote podcast somewhere, no big deal. Just everyone clips on one of these mics. And if you don't have a camera that can take in the 2 separate inputs from the 2 systems, no big deal. I'll just record. I just hit record on each individual unit. I've still got all 4 audios that I can go throw together.
Do you know Garrett Williams? He's got a YouTube channel with G&M Outdoors. Have you talked to him yet?
No, I don't know that one.
Okay. He does some cool stuff on YouTube,
Right,
like really helpful content. Anyways, I feel bad. He had some video on one of his YouTube and they were doing like underground utility stuff. I'm like, dude, I want to learn, but like I can't hear your audio. So I sent him some mics for Christmas, and I feel bad because I bought him the cheap ones. So maybe I'll have to buy ours and send him a new gift here.
I have 2 GoPros and this mic set up in my bag, and that's all I carry around. It used to be I had a full photography backpack with my main camera, the GoPros, couple lenses, microphones. This is just a quick run and gun setup that you can easily get everything pieced together within 30 seconds and you're ready to record.
Okay.
It does have a little dead cat too, which I think is the most hilarious term ever, but that is the little wind break, so that if it's a really windy day, this will plug in and cover that little microphone so that you don't get all the wind noise, which is super helpful. Up here in Michigan, we get some days that are pretty windy, and you've still got very usable audio.
Okay. These are all things that I'm actively thinking through as we build our YouTube channel. And so Brian is gracious enough to share his setup. And I want you guys to have quick access to that too.
I've gone through so many iterations and equipment. I can tell you right now, I will save you a ton of heartache if you go this route. It's a little spendy. Like I said, I want to say that kit's about $350. So it's a little spendy off the rip. Between the GoPro and this, you're going to be $700-800 deep. But if you really think about what that kind of unlocks for you, and really now that GoPro has come so far, the quality of video and audio that you're able to get out of that, I mean, that's on par with what used to be a probably $3,000 to $5,000 setup. Between the camera, the lenses, the standalone lavalier mics and everything. I mean, that used to be really expensive gear. So to be able to get that quality of content straight out of a camera too, by the way, those GoPros have gotten to the point where you really, outside of chopping the video up, you don't have to do any color grading. You don't have to do any, lens correction or anything. I mean, it's almost straight out of the camera. You can throw this right on YouTube and it looks fantastic. So that's a really, really good setup for run and gun.
Yeah, absolutely. And then not to mention all the little connections that you have. I mean, we were setting it up over the summer on our forestry jobs. Chase, who led our forestry crew and kind of led the content stuff, he did a really good job of like getting different angles. So he would put it on the boom and then he would put it inside the cab.
Oh yeah.
Just get different angles, and you could, like, when I'm going back and reviewing all the edits on the videos, I'm like, man, this was really creative by him, and I was really proud to see like how much thought and effort he put into it. But I believe that that's because GoPro made it easy with all these attachments and stick-ons and things like that.
So there are two supplemental things I would encourage everyone to get. One, there is I believe it's called the Gecko suction cup mount. Don't cheap out on your suction cup mount or you will struggle. It will be a giant pain. I can throw one of these Gecko mounts on, generally take a little bit of spit or water just right on the inside of that suction cup to give it a really good seal. And once you mount this sucker to a piece of glass, it is not going to move. And so that's what I typically use for all of my in-cab stuff, are those Gecko mounts. And then I also have a rare earth magnet mount. And any of my external shots, I've thrown this thing right over top of the dozer tracks where it's vibrating like nobody's business. I've thrown it on the side of, I was running a Sheboygan one time, or Cinneboygan, sorry, and threw it right on the edge of the boom while it was mulching in some trees, and it held on through almost everything. That magnetic mount is so helpful for if you're doing external shots, or in our skid steer too, because a lot of times you've got the cage that's all metallic. You can just pop that sucker right up, it magnets on, it's not going to go anywhere, and you can put your $400 GoPro out there and not have to panic that it's going to fall off. Through my entire YouTube career and all of the iterations I have gone through on equipment, those have been the two consistent things that I do not improve on or switch out, because they are just solid.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Let's do a giveaway. You down?
There you go. Oh, yeah.
Let's do a giveaway for anybody listening to this right now. I'll do a giveaway for all of these.
You're going full send.
All three of these things plus a lavalier mic set. So if you want to get into the YouTube
there
game,
you go.
Here's what we're going to do. This will be a Merry Christmas and a thank you for all the
this
people
who've been
a
Merry Christmas
supporting the podcast and all the people who are supporting Brian's channel as well. So I'm going off the cuff right now. So let's do a giveaway. So in order to qualify for the giveaway, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get the gecko mounts. You're going to get the magnetic thing to put inside the skid steer. And you're also going to get those DJI lav mics that have the transmitter, the one that Brian's talking about and he recommends. Okay, I'm going to tell you what you have to do on our side. You got to, if you like this content, you want to enter, you got to leave us a 5-star review on Apple, on Spotify. You got to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel where we're posting the podcast on our end. And then you also got to go sign up for our newsletter at ownerops.com. That's OWNROPS.com/newsletter. Then after you do those three things, go to x.com or go to Twitter, follow me at the ownerop, and then send me a DM and let me know that you entered into the contest. That's from my end. Now, Brian,
I'm happy for the additional subscribes. You guys come over, hit subscribe on my channel, leave a comment. Let me know that you found us through the podcast here on the comment. I will forward those over to you so that you've got them. But it's 100% worth it. I will say, if someone was dangling that carrot out when I had first gotten started, I would have been all over it, because that's everything you need except for the GoPro. Like, that's everything you need to start a YouTube channel.
So we're talking what?
I mean, you're 450 probably by the time you're all said and done.
Don't tell my wife.
Closer to 400, but yeah, let's be totally honest. If you're just starting out, all you need is a cell phone, and that lav mic setup will plug right into your cell phone. So really, more realistically, that's everything you need to start a channel, and with high quality content.
Sweet. Yeah, so we'll do the giveaway. Brian, thanks for making me look greedy there, because I'm asking for like 4 things from everybody. But all you got to do is go subscribe to his channel, and then, yeah, like I was
not greedy at all. For what you're handing out, that's not greedy at all.
No, I always talk about this, but I do believe like building a local service-based business, getting 5-star reviews on your Google My Business profile is super important. And so it's like, look, I'm investing a lot of time in this podcast. 5-star reviews do help us out a ton. And so that's why I'm asking for it. So 5-star review on Apple, Spotify. Make sure you like and follow those channels. Like and subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to our newsletter, ownerops.com/newsletter. And then go to the Diesel and Iron YouTube channel and subscribe there. And then once you do that, send me the message on Twitter that you entered into the giveaway. Last week, what I did is a giveaway for hats and sweatshirts, and people seem to enjoy that. So I just mailed those out. What I did was...
This is way better than shirts and hats. No offense, your shirts and hats are awesome.
Yeah.
But from a dollar standpoint and what you can do with it, this is way better.
So just so everybody knows, it's a legit giveaway. I put all the names in here into this hat. I did it on camera. I drew them out of the hat. So if you do that, you will have a legit chance at winning. I'm not picking friends or anything like that. So if you want to get the camera set up to go start doing more vlog content for your business, yeah, go do that. Whoever wins will send you
gecko suction mount. You've got a rare earth magnet mount, and you've got the DJI mic 2 set up.
Sweet. Let's do it. I'm going to buy one of those too for us.
And by the way, another quick nugget for everyone out there is you don't have to start with long form content. In fact, in this day and age, I would almost say short form content, those YouTube shorts, Instagram shorts. Now that TikTok's about to go away, those Instagram shorts are really going to take off. That is where a lot of people spend the majority of their time. And we're finding that shorts are actually performing better than our long form content. But again, I'm the weirdo with my long form teaching videos. A lot of times if you post the short, it will lead to the view coming over to the long form content. So this is everything you need to just fire off short after short after short.
If you haven't signed up for the weekly newsletter yet, go to ownerops.com/newsletter. That's OWNROPS.com/newsletter. We summarize all of the learning lessons from the interviews with the guests on the podcast, and we distill those into short, actionable tips, tricks, tactics, and strategies that you can use to grow your own local service business. Sign up for the newsletter at ownerops.com. That's OWNROPS.com.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to get into it. I know you've got a hard stop. You said at what, 12:30? You got to jump right
12:30, so we got about 20 more minutes. Yeah.
I do want to jump into that. short form versus long form. And I want to get your thoughts on what you're seeing, because we have a back end post production team who handles all our editing and everything. And they're like, dude, short form, short form, short form. And I'm like, yes, I understand we get views, but I think long form is what keeps people engaged. And I want to get your perspective on that, Brian. What do you think about the difference between short form, long form? How would you approach starting?
So I would say, again, because I'm such an oddity, I can't really go off of my performance metrics, but I really think about how I ingest content, how I watch my wife ingest content. Shorts are like eating popcorn or some sort of a snack. It's one of those things where when you find that snack that really hits the spot, you're going to keep going back to that snack. And where I go with that is, if you've got a content creator that you really like and they're just putting out banger after banger after banger on the short form content, even if you just only ingest shorts, you're going to keep going back to that one short because he's just consistent and he's got the vein that you really like mining. But if you incorporate into your shorts snippets from your long form videos, YouTube has the ability to kind of link it back to where if you click, it's going to take you to the long form video. And so what I would encourage guys to do is spend maybe 60 to 70% of your time putting out short content, really good short content. And I will tell you, as a content creator, it is far easier to put out a 30-second clip than it is to make an interesting 15-minute to 30-minute clip. I mean, it's not even close. It's very easy. And so if you can put out consistent, really good shorts, but then when you piece together a vlog, take the time to go through and pull out good nuggets from your long form content and make those shorts, that's going to help drive people over. Because, you know, like we all do, you got a guy that's putting out really, really good shorts, you're going to naturally go over to his profile, you're going to check out what other video content he's got, and you're not just going to stay on the shorts tab, you're going to check out his long form videos too. So it's a natural progression, because a lot more people are spending more time in shorts than they are long form content now, because TikTok ruined us. We have no attention span anymore. And so I think a lot of the viewership has moved to short form content, that when they want to kind of get past the snack and move to the meal, that's when they're going to go find your long form content.
It's so interesting, man. And I want to hear, I don't know anything about this TikTok thing going away, so I want to hear that.
TikTok. Yes. So from what I understand, and this is where I haven't done a whole lot of actual reading on what's going on, but as most people know, TikTok has kind of been in the news recently because at the end of the day, it's a Chinese company behind it, and the big panties in the twist situation is that they're harvesting data from all of the US-based users, sending it back to China so that China can use it for whatever they want to. Let's not worry about the fact that every freaking platform you use out there is doing the exact same thing, and none of it's staying here in the US. But whatever, old man rant aside, Congress basically has said, we are banning TikTok in the US. How that is actually implemented, I'm not sure at this point. I don't know what that looks like. I'm sure it's one of those things where if you go through a VPN, if people are familiar with that, you might be able to bypass some of the blocks on TikTok and still continue to use it. I would venture to say that most people don't have the tech savviness to really go that route. And so for all intensive purposes, it sounds like TikTok is going away. And so all of that content, and this is where I've been an old man from the beginning, and I was like, I'm not getting on TikTok. I feel for the people who have gone and established these huge TikTok accounts, and all of that work can go away in an instant, and it is going to go away because all of that audience is going to migrate most likely to something like YouTube Shorts, Instagram Shorts, or there may be another platform that kind of rises from the ashes of TikTok.
I have no background on this, but I'm going to make a wild guess that Elon is going to optimize X for short form video.
Oh, you know, he's going to market the snot out of it and say it's the best and greatest and awesomest. Now, I will say this kind of brings up another point of discussion that I think is important for all of those YouTube fanatics that think they're going to make it rich. Don't ever make your entire living dependent off of YouTube or any social media, because it is not uncommon for Google, as the parent company of YouTube, it is not uncommon for Google to decide that for whatever reason, you've done something offensive on your channel, even though it's been established for 10 years, you have 1 million followers, and this has happened repeatedly. If you go back and really look, this has happened all the time. million plus followers, making crazy amounts of money off of the channel. One thing happens, YouTube says your channel is now shut down. Done. That can happen to anyone at any point in time. So I will say to anyone listening that still is convinced that they are going to become the next YouTube sensation and just make millions off of YouTube, you better diversify. You better look into other revenue streams, because even if you do tap the magic vein, it could go away at any point in time and you're left with nothing.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of somebody else.
An algorithm, that's the best part. You can't even get a hold of a person. It's an algorithm. And then if they nix you, who are you going to get a hold of? It's Google.
I mean, look, it happened to us with our Instagram account. Like I'm literally building a forestry, excavation, and snow removal company. And I'm paying an agency to help us manage our social, because it's like, and I've talked about this before. If you've listened to the podcast, you understand that like hire and I delegate things to, other people who are professionals at what they do.
It's wise. It takes so much time.
And we, over the last 2 years, like we've developed a Facebook, we've developed an Instagram, we're started working on YouTube now, as I've mentioned. And we didn't have a crazy amount of like reach or followers on Instagram, but we did have some, and like we were recognized here locally and people would see it. All of a sudden, just one day, it was gone. And I'm like,
yeah,
why? And you never know. Like, we don't know why. We've all reached out. Like I tried to like,
you'll never get any answers. Yeah.
You don't. And so you're at the mercy of somebody else. And that is a very important thing that you bring up. And it's like, never put all your eggs in one basket. Sure, you can leverage these platforms to get more exposure, but you shouldn't be relying on that as your sole one source of income, right?
Yes. This industry is way too just flash in the pan. Things can happen and change within 24 hours. You can go from being on top of the world to what am I going to do now? So,
well, we are getting to the point to where I know we're going to have to start wrapping up. If we jump down another topic, we might go down another 10 or 15 minute rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Brian, this has been so much fun. It's great to get to know you.
Yeah, this has been a blast. I appreciate you having me on, and I would say absolutely, if you have repeat guests, I'd be down to do another one down the road and tackle some more topics. That's the thing about being a content creator in our industry is there's multiple conversations to be had. There's the industry side, and then there's the content creation side, and then there's even, if you go down the path of sponsorships and what that looks like, there's so many facets of this that you could go explore.
Absolutely. Would love to have you back on. And I mean, the most natural way to start this conversation was just to get you to share some YouTube tips. And I believe that you've shared some very valuable things to help our audience. And if they've got a service business in, trees, forestry, land clearing, excavation, snow removal, it doesn't really matter what service you're providing. If you're operating heavy equipment, one thing I have found out is people do like watching heavy equipment online. So go leverage that.
We're all little kids at heart. Everyone's a little kid at heart.
My favorite videos as a kid was literally watching a loader load a dump truck. And my mom says you just asked it was like repeat. It was like a VHS that she would put in, and it would just load and go. And I just watched it all.
Did you ever watch There Goes a Bulldozer?
I don't know if I did. There Goes a Bulldozer.
There Goes a Bulldozer was awesome. It was this guy that goes to a job site and is going through all the different pieces of equipment and gets up in a tower crane. Same thing when I was a little kid, over and over and over and over again. So I got it for my kids, and I still sat down and watched it with them, even though I'm in the industry. I'll still sit and watch There Goes a Bulldozer.
Absolutely. I posted some grader stuff yesterday from some of our content on Facebook, and a friend from high school reached out. I hadn't talked to her in a long time. And I guess her son had the phone. She was like, oh, he was like watching it, and it was like, nice job or something like that. So it's like, man,
that's awesome.
Kids just love the construction equipment. What else would you share, Brian, with our listeners? Like if they're in the dirt game, if they're in the excavation world, like what are some tips that you have just for starting a business in this industry?
Oh man, you're going to send me down a rabbit hole. There's so many directions you could take that. I mean, the biggest tip I would tell you is be ethical and honorable and do quality work. That's one of the things that I think the trades still is fighting the old contractor mentality of you pull one over on the homeowner and do the bare minimum possible. And obviously the trades have come a long way, and I think there has, over the last 10 or so years, I think there's been kind of a return of the pride to the trades. But still, we're fighting a lot of that old school mentality. And so I would always tell everyone, go out there to kill it. Don't go out there to do the bare minimum and collect a check.
I love that. I love that piece of advice. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Brian, once again, thanks for being on the show. And it's Brian Furness with Diesel and Iron. Go check him out on YouTube. You can just search Diesel and Iron. Brian, where else can they find you online or anything else related to what you're doing?
See, you had me on here talking about social content. I'm the worst social guy ever. I think we've got an Instagram account that we kind of half-ass post to occasionally, but really YouTube is my space. I've kind of just owned that because of the style of content that I do and my kind of personal goal. It's not to become the biggest, most famous YouTuber or social media influencer. It's really to promote the industry and teach. And so really YouTube is where it's at. I would say that is your best way to get a hold of me or to interact with me or to see any of the content we're putting out there.
Awesome. Well, once again, listeners, thanks again for listening to another. Oh, I'm getting some episode. Excuse me. I'm getting some background noise there.
That's mine. Here, I'll mute you. Go ahead and do your outro, and then I will
right.
Unmute it and talk back.
Sweet. Yeah, listeners, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Owner Ops Podcast. If you haven't already, go leave us a 5-star review if you are enjoying this type of content. Man, now I'm all like messed up. Anyways.
I'm sorry.
Dude,
my earbud just died and it went to my speakers, and that's why you're getting the feedback. In fact, let me try this. We'll do this.
No, y'all are seeing how ADD I am. Like, I literally can't focus because I'm here in the background. So, look, we'll just wrap this episode up and call it good.
Dude, this is like the perfect outro
fun.
for content creation. This is what content creation is. You have a plan, it's supposed to go perfect, and then right at the end, everything goes haywire, and it totally throws you off your game. Welcome to content creation.
Seriously, like this is real time. Like, y'all are seeing how bad my ADD is. I don't know if y'all have ever had this before, but like, when you're talking with the like truck Bluetooth to somebody and they've got echo on their end and you're talking and you hear your voice and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even focus on what I'm saying. Maybe that's just me. Does that happen to anybody else out there? Maybe I'm the only one. Anyways, I was dialed in on that one, but yeah, thanks again for listening to this episode of the Owner Ops.
My audio's gone. Just roll with it.
One up.
I'm having issues now on my end.
Giveaway. I love it, man.
Never stops.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm definitely not editing this out. I'm not editing this out.
There we go. I got audio back through the speakers. It is what it is. The perfect bow on a content creation episode.
If you guys have listened to this podcast before, you know what the outro is going to say. So I'm going to ask you to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, on Apple, like and subscribe to the channel, and go sign up for the newsletter, because we send a weekly newsletter where we summarize all the tips that Brian talked about. And we'll send that to you on Saturday mornings. I'm still hearing my voice. So thanks again for listening, guys. Don't forget, work hard, do your best, never settle for less. We'll see you guys in the next episode.